What's up, Liron here. Thank you for joining me in another video. And you're probably familiar with the following scenario. You look at a reference photo or a scene and you think to yourself, how the hell am I gonna simplify that? How can I make this into a painting? I can see so much information, so many structures, so many details in the mountains and trees and everything. And the question is, how do you simplify it? And my answer is, and it's a concept I dropped a few videos ago, was large shapes of value. So I'm going to show you exactly how to do that in this video. I'm going to teach you how to simplify, how to create that sense of scale and depth and simplicity and beauty in a painting. So with that being said, let's get started. Okay, so let me first show you some of the shapes here, just real quick. Instead of looking at this really zoomed in, and I'm actually happy the photo quality isn't as high. So instead of seeing all of these small trees and small details and snow here and the hills at the back, we're gonna really simplify it. So all we need is just like, I don't know, 5 to 10 maximum shapes. So the sky is gonna be 1, the mountains here in the background are gonna be 2, the snow here in the foreground is going to be 3. These 2 trees are 4, 5. This little cabin 6. This little cabin 7, 8. And maybe the shadows here they're going to just be a part of that. You see, so this is how you divide it into very simple shapes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And within those shapes, we're not going to have too many details, really. But knowing that these are the main shapes we're going to work on can really help you know how to approach the process and know what you want to show. If we zoom out a bit, bear with me, we're zooming out, you can see all of these main shapes, and this is all that matters. So I hope that makes sense, and with that being said, let's go to the table and start working on this. So now that we know what shapes we'll focus on, I'm going to start drawing them one by one. So again, we have that large mountain range, which is essentially going to be the background. I'm not even sure I will show the other ones farther at the back, but I really like the shape. This is a naturally perfect reference photo. I love the way it goes up and down and then up again and down again. I will put in a couple of hints of farther mountain ranges here. Now we have the whole snowy section, so that goes kind of like this. And notice how all the shapes here are actually perfect. This goes down, then goes back up like that. So that closes off that main shape. We have the house here, which is like the main focal point. So that's also kind of a shape, if you will. That's one part of it, and there's another, and I may, if it was a different time, I would have changed it up, but for now this feels good to work with, so I'll leave it as is, showing partially through the hill. There's another kind of house here. Now for the more confusing, if you will, main shapes, and sorry, because of the light you may not be able to see as well, but I will get to the painting stage really fast and then you'll be able to see. So we have this tree here, and let me zoom in a bit. So yeah, I figured that if I zoom in a bit, you'll be able to better see the shapes. So here we go, that's one tree. And then we have a second one, a little shorter. I would like to avoid too much of a similarity, so I do this one a little smaller, like that. Now here is where it could get confusing, but we're not going to get confused. We have this part that's the cast shadow that's also in fact a part of the shape. Okay, so it's just a different shape, but it is one big shape of this hill of snow and the shadow that it casts, like so. Then we have another tree here. This one's going to be divided into 2, probably the dark part and then the snowy part. I'm not sure exactly how I'll do it, but I'll probably do it that way. Now here we have a bit of another tree, and notice how I had to kind of squeeze it in a little bit together. You know what, let me change that a bit. Let's do the hill here. This is going to be the shadow of the farther tree, and this is going to be the shadow of the closer tree, okay? So kind of like this, off from the side of the snow pile and to the right. So this is one shadow, and this is the other shadow. So instead of getting a million different shapes and not being able to tell what's going on and not knowing what to focus on, we've made everything very simple by just using this kind of approach. I will put a hint of trees here, but I don't know if I'll leave them. This is just for me, maybe I'll use them. So we have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like 8 major shapes max. We don't need more than that. So with that, I'm going to start painting. We're going to treat the snow as paper white, so I'm going to leave it white, and we're going to cover everything else up. So we're going to have some highlights here on the snow, and in fact, let's close this shape more clearly, and highlights on the rooftop, but that's it. The rest is going to be covered. So this entire painting is going to be fairly muted. I'm going to go for some warmth in the sky. There is no real reason for that other than the bottom feels very cool, so I would love to try and contrast that. I don't know if it'll work. I don't know if it's gonna be worth it to do that kind of thing, but let's see. So I'm mixing and mixing and mixing until I find the right balance and the large enough quantity. So something like that I think will work. Let's add a bit more water. This guy's fairly light yet. I do want to get them in. I'm thinking of doing something a bit odd and impressionistic with the sky, so let's try to just let it do what it wants, I guess. And what could be fun is while we're at it, while this section is still wet, we're gonna get some details in for the farther mountain ridge, but that's gonna be in a minute because now it's still very wet and all the paint. We're gonna talk about wet and wet in the future. Because what's cool about it is that it is all about the timing, so we'll try getting the right timing in just a moment. Now the trees mostly are going to be dark, but I'm going to leave just a few highlights on the left and then cover up all of this section. So notice just a few highlights for the snowy parts of the trees. The rest is going to be very well covered up. This part is snow already, so we'll leave it light. This part, just a few highlights on the tree. Like that, and we're done. And let's close off this section quickly before it starts drying on us. I'm cooling it a bit the more I get to the bottom here. And so yeah, here we have a bit of a highlight. So I'm gonna leave that. Bit of a highlight here and here. This, and I'm gonna be a little more careful with this section. A little more neutral is also kind of a highlight. I'm just gonna add a bit more water to it. I don't know why it got darker. Honestly, I didn't try it to get it darker. Straighten out the shape of the snow and a bit of the trees here. We're gonna go over these in the next wash, but for now, just a bit of that. And actually, while we're at it, we can already put in that snow pile because we're here. So let's blue it up a little more, just a touch more, and put in that snow pile. It looks so good. Like here, and the shadow already touching it, okay? One, and that's the second one. You have to remember to simplify these kinds of shadows and shapes. You could use a bit of a dry brush effect just to get in some more random patterns, but with this we're pretty much done with this wash. Notice how beautiful it looks and how close we are to finalizing this. Already there's a sense of depth, even scale, I would say. So we're gonna allow this a few moments to dry and then come back with the next washes. Okay, so I allowed this some time to dry, and two things. First, notice how we really stuck to simplicity. A lot of simple shapes instead of doing a million shapes. We just have a few. We missed a couple of highlights here and there, but that's fine. The second thing that you really want to pay attention to is how to preserve that simplicity. You don't want to overdo this stage, and you want to keep it relatively simple. We have a lot of plays of dark and light in the lights, so I don't want to go too dark, especially with that kind of mountain ridge. So what I'm going to do is put it in very simply, without too much fussing. We're just going to place that in. We'll do a medium temperature kind of thing here, so both French ultramarine and some burnt sienna, just to get things going, and I need a large amount. Okay, that's what most people don't mix a large enough of an amount. So I'm bringing water from the bucket. Notice how much it flows, but then I need more paint, more of the hot, more of the cool, and let's go towards a bit of a warmer mix. So we're gonna have warm in the middle, cool up top, well, kind of warm here and then cool there. So this is our mixture. And let's get started from left to right. I'm gonna get rid of some paint from the brush. I don't want it to be too much. Now there isn't enough of the burnt sienna, so I'm just adding a bit of that. And as long as you get the values fairly accurately, it will look really good. Now you want to make sure you negative paint around the snowy left side of that tree here. Make the shape very organic and kind of natural feeling. Go around that tree. We will add the tree later on with a bit of a darker value. I considered doing it all together, and it may work, but I think, you know what? Let's continue with simplicity. I'm going to put in that tree already here. So here's one. Later on we can cover it up with some darker values if we need to. And that's two, kind of like that. Then let's get rid of some of the excess moisture so we don't get backgrounds. And off we go. We can continue with the mountains here. And again, the magic word is simplicity. That's right. You want to keep this as simple as you can. Flowy, fun and quick. You can vary the mix a bit. It can be a little warmer in places, a little cooler in others. But overall, you want it to look simple. Okay, that's the magic word. So here we go. There is a bit of a cabin here. I'm going to paint around that. Small. So, continue with this kind of line. Now here we have to watch out because we do have quite a few highlights. So first this one, cut around that, go around this, go around that, second rooftop. And again, even if you mess some parts of this up, it's not the end of the world because you can always use, you know, white paint, or you can use, there are a lot of means of correcting these kinds of mistakes. Now I'm going to leave some highlights here for the snow on the other tree. And so very simple, and try and make it look very random, okay? But one more thing I need to really make sure I take care of fast is drawing the edge here, blending the edge here, okay? I don't want there to be a hard edge almost at all. So here we go. I'm gonna need some tissue. So let me get a bit of it. And just by doing this kind of thing, it can really help to blend the edge. And maybe you can do that for maybe one more. You know what? Let's not. If we touch this area now, we're gonna get some weird looking background. So that's good enough for now. And now we can actually just wrap up this corner here. And we're done. So what's left really here is just some details. I skipped the trees here. I didn't want to leave them. So the trees and then the houses, and we're done. So a bit of blue and some of that warmth. Let's add a bit of yellow. We want a very muted green. So we'll use the same kind of neutralized mixture, but with a very small amount of yellow. And let's start just placing in these parts of the tree. I know what I'm doing now is a bit risky because this part isn't fully dry. Let's go for it. We'll add later on some more details in dry brush perhaps, but let's let these mix for a bit. I like to try out some new things once in a while, so let's see how it goes. So a bit of this, and you really want to get the random pattern of branches here going. It's all about randomness really when it comes to, you know, nature and natural shapes like that. So here we go, and then we have that hill of snow like that, and I am going to also blend this, or put a bit of tree branches here onto the left, okay? But in addition to that, I am going to also, I'm just gonna close the door so we don't get noise from the outside. I am gonna blend the bottom section here like this, because the shadows are a little darker at their base, so that's going to be a good way of showing that. Here we go. So a couple of trees. Now onto the left side. Now here I'm going to leave a lot more highlights, so just a bit of an indication of tree branches, a bit of yellow and all of that story, kind of like this. And a lot of it really is just taking a bet. This is the first time I'm painting this scene, so you can't really know what's going to happen. That's the thing with watercolor. It's really an ongoing learning process, and you never really you can never be fully prepared. You can always encounter a reference of a type you haven't really tried to paint before, and then you have no idea what to do. So that happens a lot. And I'm not very proficient in winter scenes and snow, so that's one thing I do want to work on, which is why I'm making this video. So here we go, 2 trees. For me, this looks great, so I'm gonna switch to a smaller brush, start putting in the details of the cabin here. So a bit of shadow, same mix, sticking to it, and just less water. So let's do it here. And I'm gonna put in this shape of the shadow, which is really one of the main human-made shape here. So I want to make sure I get that in. And then the bottom here has also a shadow that I may have dropped if it was a different time, but for now I feel like putting it in really. So here we go, some chimneys perhaps, maybe a chimney here on this farther rooftop. And I think with that we've gotten most of the details. So let's put in some details into the trees here. They're actually taller than what I did. So I'm gonna put in some random branches like so. Make this look like a tree. Another one, and again, simplicity and randomness. That's the magic. And it can be hard at first. No matter what, you'll get patterns. You'll get something that looks like a pattern, but with time and practice, you'll be able to pull it off. Now, I do want to put in some branches, maybe with dry brush, sticking out of the snow. So kind of like this. Some random details in the foreground that can really help to bring out some interest. A bit of that here as well. Then a bit inside the shadows here, because that happens. Or even in the light, you know, random leaves or shrubs that stick out of the snow. And on the left side, I'm gonna add a bit more snowy shadows, because we have them and I haven't gotten them in. A bit of more snow here, just to close off that kind of mid-value. And believe it or not, with that we're done. It is a beautiful scene, and it has a good potential for a loose painting that's very atmospheric. I didn't even go as atmospheric as I could. I could probably create something much better in the foreground there. I'll probably have a couple of other attempts here in the future, because I feel like there's a lot to try out with this kind of scene. I'm gonna put in some dry brush marks for snow or some texture. I feel like this could have been merged way better into the sky. I could do this all throughout and that'll look a little better. So that's a lesson for me for the next time. But in any case, I hope you enjoyed this one, and now let's wrap it up. So this is it for this one. I hope you found it enjoyable and helpful, seeing how I take the original photo and show you the main shapes. And of course, I could change a lot of things. I actually really messed up the sky here, and no one cares. From afar, it looks good. Maybe it's an early moon coming out. Who knows, but it looks good, it looks simple, you can tell what you're looking at, and it's pleasing to the eye. Hopefully the composition also keeps the viewer's eye in it. Let me know if there's anything else you want me to talk about in a future video. If there's anything else you're struggling with, I'm going to talk about this concept and more in my upcoming course coming out really, really soon. And I know a lot of you have reached out and asked me to update you. It's going to be a month tops from now, I think. Okay, I hope so. We'll work hard to get it there. So thank you so much. Don't forget to drop a like to this video if you enjoyed it, and also subscribe and hit the bell button. That really, really helps. And I will see you again in another one real soon.